Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have with us today William Lyman. William is the founder and CEO of Breakwave Energy, a remarkable company that's addressing one of the foundational challenges with addressing climate change and a great opportunity potentially for investment. So stick around. You don't want to miss this episode. Bill, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on. Absolutely.
Uh, we're thrilled. Uh, you know, in this renewable energy world we live in, I'm just a huge fan, and I drive an EV, and I follow all these things, and I'm dying to get solar on my house. But one of the great frustrations with solar is that it's going to go on my house, and 300 days a year it's sunny, uh, but like in where I live, it's not sunny in the wintertime. It's cloudy almost every day in the wintertime. And so it's really challenging. I can't heat my house with it. And I don't know about where you live, but where I live at nighttime, there's no sun. So solar isn't going to power anything at night. And then we've got wind. Wind is more reliable in a few places, but most places it only blows some of the time. So there's this great attention building and focusing on what you're doing, wave energy. But this is challenging. Why is it so dang challenging to make wave energy work when they're just there waiting to be captured all the time?
Well, that is the big unanswered question right there. Because you look at solar and you look at wind and you look at waves and you're like, well, hey, solar, the sun goes down. It doesn't matter where you live. You live in Michigan, or if you live in Arizona, where it would be great to have solar. You still got nighttime, and then you have wind, which, most people know this, some don't, but wind is driven by sun and it heats up the land and then the air gets drawn in. And so it's also kind of in a way driven by, daylight and nighttime as well. But waves, they're driven by 1,000 miles away storms and, they break all day long, all night. And water is 800 times more dense. So, you think about it and you're like, why aren't we doing this in the water? Why aren't we grabbing energy from waves? And the thing is, though, is that the ocean is almost designed to ruin everything it touches. And so you've got to put your equipment out there, but then you got to make sure it survives. You're always going to be able to grab more energy from waves, but you have to do it in a way that's cost effective.
Yeah, that is really an interesting challenge because that is such a harsh environment. Anyone who's ever lived on or near the ocean knows that the salt water just can ruin almost anything. If you walk along a beach community, if you see a home where they haven't been painting the railings and stuff, boy, you just see the corrosion just shredding the metals, and it's just harsh on the furniture that gets left outside. So how do you address this? What are you doing?
Well, that's you kind of got to do what I'm doing, which is, hey, let's grab some energy from waves, but let's do it in a way that we only put the absolute minimal amount of infrastructure out there in the waves that we have to. And I kind of think of it as like the Heisman approach, right? We've all seen that pose of the Heisman, right? He's holding the ball and he's kind of shirking off the defenders. And that's kind of what you got to do. You got to hold on to the ball. You got to get into the end zone, but you got to make sure that you don't get touched by anything that wants to hurt you. And the ocean wants to hurt you. There's a reason they call the perches on top of buildings and houses that are near ports. They call them widow's perches, right? There's a reason for that. The ocean is designed to destroy things, I believe, and that's how we ended up designing ours, was to try to get away from the harmful effects of the ocean. And in doing that, our maintenance costs are dramatically lower in the future than will be our competitors. So, we're proud of the design, and we know that that risk is out there, and that's what we're doing to get around it.
Now, I know you haven't got a commercial scale version, right? You don't have a product for sale today. Tell us a little bit about what you have accomplished in terms of prototyping and design and testing.
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a preliminary design that we worked around, and would I say tinker with might be the wrong word, but we built it and then we tore it apart, took certain aspects it down to the ocean to do some testing, right? So obviously there's some animosity towards testing stuff in the ocean, especially in California where I live. So we took portions of the equipment down to the beach and tested it in singularity, right? Kind of think about like if you built a car but you couldn't drive it on the road, right? All right, I'm going to test the engine here in the driveway and stuff like that. And all of our tests have been good and they've shown a lot of power. And that gave us the insight to build a bigger prototype, which is exactly what we did in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Excellent. And so, have you been able to deploy that for testing anywhere?
We have not deployed it for testing yet. We did build it out. We're attaching next month the electrical components. So we're testing the electrical components here at Cal State University San Marcos with the help of their electrical engineering school. And then we'll fly those components out to Erie. We'll attach everything and we'll test. I'm a former Navy SEAL, and so I believe, testing, testing, testing before you actually deploy is the way to go, right? I think there's an analogy used in football. The Super Bowl is won in the summer, and that's kind of that's the thinking that I'm bringing to it, right? We want to test, make sure everything works, make sure everything's good to go before we deploy it. What I don't want to do is waste the investors' money, sitting on the beach, watching stuff get washed away. It's just not something I want to do.
Yeah. Speaking of investors, you've got a crowdfunding campaign underway on Raise Green. This is not a rewards campaign or but this is an investment opportunity for folks. How did you choose Raise Green for your campaign?
Well, there's a million we funders, there's a million, funding sites out there. We wanted to choose something that's centered on what we're doing, which is renewable energy, kind of a crowdfunding site with an altruistic undertone. And that's how we ended up choosing Raise Green. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. This is a chance for everyone out there, no matter, what economic position that they're in. It affords them a chance to really be a part of, the future, right? Of wave energy. And listen, there's 25,000 miles of coastline out there that can be, you could take waves and convert them into energy. Africa, which is that continent, is currently meeting 50% of its energy needs. They are a huge future potential customer for wave energy conversion. A couple of stats: 64% of America's energy needs breaks off its shores each year. 3,000% of Indonesia's power needs breaks off its shores. There's enough energy breaking off of Indonesia to power all of their energy needs till the end of time, and then some.
Wow. Wow. That is exciting to think about these island nations and, think about like Hawaii. I think you told me before we got started, you lived in Hawaii for a time and, that's also a place where energy is a bit of a challenge, I know, and it's a little bit expensive. Seems like there's an opportunity even in Hawaii, right?
Well, it is. It really is. Hawaii has that problem. They've got to ship, energy out there, right? I mean, even solar panels. Solar panels, there's not a huge solar power manufacturing plant in Hawaii. So even the solar panels that you would have in your house, which are going to work beautifully, have to get shipped out there, right? And then Hawaii and other similar locales. It's they have to kind of like ship their power in, right? So some of these beautiful locations you see throughout the world, Fiji, Tahiti, Indonesia, Philippines, right? You might be in the capital, Manila, or Indonesia, for example, Jakarta, and the prices for energy, oil, gas are all going to be about the same as they would be anywhere else, right? But the thing is once you go farther and farther away from the capital into these outlying areas, these prices for gasoline, oil, energy, they don't go up 10, 15, 20, 25%. They go up double, 3 times, 4 times the amount. Or those localities, they just go without. They just turn their generators off, and everybody just waits until the sun comes up. That's where we can really come in and offer renewable power solution, energy solution, which is substantially cost competitive to what they're paying right now.
Yeah, and it's becoming very rapidly a complete energy, right? You go back in time even 3 or 4 years, and it would be absurd to be thinking about electricity being a substitute for gas. But
Really.
today it really is. I mean, all the e-bikes are a perfect substitute for the little scooters you see in all these countries, and there are thousands of them, right? You and I have traveled around the world, and everyone's riding a scooter. It could be an e-bike just as easily. And of course, China's making, we don't see them in the United States for a variety of reasons, but they're making cheap electric cars that are just going crazy in the developing world across China and elsewhere. So it's a complete fuel. Very exciting to think about the potential of your product in all these, well,
Well,
everywhere in the world, but especially in the developing world around the ocean. So,
Well, we are centered on the developing world. We really are. That's where energy is needed the most. And that's where we come in to play a huge, huge component of what they need. We will have the ability in the future to not only produce electricity, we will be able to produce it in scalable portions. I have a 300-person village off an island in the Philippines. We can scale our technology down to be cost competitive and provide power to just that amount of people in that location. Larger locations, we can produce power and hook up into the grid, potentially in the future. We could also, if there's a massive wave event and there's way more energy being produced than being used, we can take that excess energy or the weight that we're lifting, and we can pressurize a saltwater container and desalinate water without first turning that wave power into energy, which is something not everybody can say they can do. And so these are some of the potential things that we can go out there and make happen, which is not easily doable with solar and wind.
yeah, desalinating water. That's huge. That's huge. That's very exciting application. If you can skip the step where you turn the kinetic energy into electricity and then use that for, yeah, skip all that energy wasted in that process. Now we use, that's very exciting. Very exciting. How do you do that?
Well, what you would do is, so you have a wave that comes in, right? And
Hmm.
it's just a raw display of power. Okay. And so our design takes a weighted surf catch, in smaller scale, similar to a surfboard or a boogie board, obviously heavily modified to take in the power of a wave. And as it comes in a horizontal fashion towards shore, it is hooked up through cabling to what we're calling a weight transfer unit, and that lifts weight. Now, if you want to just produce energy, after you've lifted the weight enough times or high enough or enough weight, you would then drop it and power a turbine producing electricity. If electricity is not an immediate need, you could then take that weight, put it over a saltwater container, and you could pressurize the saltwater container. And that's the basis of reverse osmosis, is pressurized salt water being pushed through a reverse osmosis process. So that's how you would save skipping that first producing into electricity. Also, you could hook the electricity up to dredging machines as well, which is becoming a major problem here in Southern California, but also throughout the world as we're losing our beaches due to, the raising of the oceans and erosion, so that's a big problem as well. And that's also another solution that we could provide power to.
Boy, it's exciting to think about all the implications of your technology. Very, very exciting. Listen, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Bill about his superpower. We're here with Bill. He's William Lyman, CEO and founder of Breakwave Energy. Just a fascinating discussion. I'm just riveted. I hope you are. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a minute. Don't miss it. Stick around.
You can get in on the ground floor to help fix the climate crisis for as little as $100. Pause now to scan the QR code to get started or visit s4g.biz/raisegreen. You can be a green at Raise Green. Join us at Supercrowd Chicago with community-focused business leaders and investors working to support diverse founders, social entrepreneurs, and community builders. Learn how to raise money from the crowd and invest like a pro on June 12th at Columbia College Chicago. Register now at thesupercrowd.com. Hope to raise money from the impact crowd. Good investors are as interested in community, social or environmental impact as you. Connect with Funding Hope, an SEC-registered FINRA member crowdfunding portal to learn how to raise capital from the impact crowd. Scan the QR code now.
Welcome back, everyone. Thrilled to have you here. This is such an exciting conversation. We've been talking to William Lyman, who's the CEO and founder of Breakwave Energy, about his technology, his business, his crowdfunding campaign to support it. But we're going to shift gears. Bill is a retired Navy SEAL as well as an entrepreneur, just a fabulous human being. So you don't want to miss this discussion about his superpowers. So stick around. Bill, as you look back on this extraordinary career that you had, what is your superpower?
I think an understanding of the ocean through the experiences that I've had in it. I've surfed ever since I was a young child. I've surfed a lot of waves. I've surfed 20 different countries. I've broken well over 24 surfboards. I've walked out of the ocean before with 3 different concussions. And then I was also in the SEAL teams. I started out in the SEAL teams, and this was back, in the early 90s or mid 90s. And, we still mapped the ocean floor, right? For beach invasions. And then, towards the later part of my career, I started doing beach reconnaissance in depth. And so, my understanding of the ocean is incredibly, incredibly detailed. And I think that's really influenced our design. And that's why I think, we're really seeing some success right now, because people can see just this like overall element of common sense and practicality of the design and what we want to do and where we want to deploy and, how we'll make investors money back for them. I think that understanding of the ocean, that's my superpower, 100%.
It's a remarkable superpower, and I can see how genuine and authentic that is, because you're talking about having spent so many years coming at it in different ways, right? It's not just the experiential exposure of a surfer, but also a scientific approach of a Navy SEAL, trying to figure out how to use the ocean strategically. Great depth. I wonder if you could give us an example of how you've used that skill to accomplish something. Maybe you could think of an example, something you've done to illustrate the power of that superpower.
I mean, that's put me on the spot. That's great. I used to surf in Hawaii a lot, right? And this is a perfect example. We're surfing. It had some size on it. It was about 15 foot. And I remember very clearly, there was a buddy of mine. He's like, all right, it's clear. Here's the channel. We should paddle out here. I was like, no, you're going to want to paddle out here. He's like, dude, I don't want to paddle out there. That's where the big waves are. It's right in front of me. And I was like, nope. Look, like there's a channel there and there's currents here and the swell's coming from this direction. It's this big and it's rising. And this is what's going on with the tide. I'll bet you lunch that I'm going to paddle out where I'm going to paddle out, and you think it's dangerous, and you paddle out where you paddle out. I guarantee you that not only will I be able to get out faster than you, but I can get out with dry hair. And so sure enough, I sat in the channel for about 15 minutes waiting for him to catch up to me. And I think that's just kind of what our competition lacks, right? That deep, deep understanding of the ocean. And I fear a lot of these other companies are going to be putting in really, really, really expensive equipment in the ocean where places it probably shouldn't go and, might not work out for them, which is why I designed my design to avoid the ocean's damaging effects as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, that's a fascinating approach. I want to dig in just a little bit as you think about your superpower. There are a few young surfers, maybe a few are watching, who want to mimic that expertise in the ocean. But I think a lot of our audience wants to say, wow, how do I develop that experiential depth of knowledge in other fields? So, if you would think about how you could apply this principle of developing that expertise uh, kind of across the board, how do you become like the deep experiential expert that you are on the oceans in other areas?
You know, it's funny, like, there's kind of two things here I kind of like hold dear to my heart, right? And one is the Navy SEAL saying, everybody wants to be a frogman on a sunny day, right? And it's true, right? Because you might go out skydiving on a day, just like a training event, and it's sunny, and you have people in the SEAL teams who aren't SEALs, and they're standing around there watching us skydive from airplanes, and they're like, I could do this. Like, I could totally do this. These guys put on parachutes. It's sunny. Everyone has sunscreen on, right? And they're jumping out of airplanes. Like, I don't see the big deal. This isn't that hard. What they don't see is I haven't slept for 3 days. It's 2 a.m. in the morning, and I'm in the middle of the ocean. I can't see land. The engine's not working on this small boat that I'm on. Two of my guys are seasick, and I can't get the compass or the GPS to get a solid fix. Those are the moments you don't see, right? So it's easy to be a frogman on a sunny day. The other thing with surfing is, and I say this a lot to young surfers, is if you don't surf good when it's bad, then you'll surf bad when it's good. You can't just go when it's sunny. You can't just go when it's good. You got to go when it's bad, and you got to go a lot. The experience that you gain when no one else is there is sometimes the most valuable experience. Go look at a gym at 5 a.m. in the morning as opposed to 5 in the afternoon. There's going to be a higher degree of successful people in the morning at that gym. And, I think there's a greater life lesson there.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson. I really appreciate you sharing that. As we wrap up now, Bill, I wonder if you would just take a minute and tell people how they can connect with you. I think there'd be a lot of people who want to talk to you. Uh, I think some people are going to want to be able to invest. So tell them how they can learn more about the investment, uh, coach them a little bit on the process, help people see how they can proceed, and make sure people know how to follow you on social media if that's an option. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I'm easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I am on the Raise Green site. Listen, you might not understand wave energy. Go ahead, ask me some questions. I'll be answering those personally. You can reach out to me in any way you want. I'm a pretty approachable guy. I also get a U.S. Navy pension. So your tax dollars go to support me. In a way, I kind of feel I owe you. So go ahead and ask me some questions about anything you want. More than anything, jump on the chance to be a part of Wave Energy in the future. There's 25,000 miles that is going to be harvested in the next 2 decades. It's going to be an enormous outpouring of capital and an enormous amount of money to be made from energy conversion. You're going to want to be a part of that in the future.
Yeah, great reminder. This is the beginning of a new phase of renewable energy, and very exciting, vitally important. Thank you so much, Bill, for taking the time to be with us today. We want to wish you every success in this effort. We really, we need you to succeed. It's an essential part of addressing climate change, which is just affects us all. So, like I say, we want to see you succeed. So good luck to you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Let's do some good.